It is the Anfield wrap. The Anfield wrap after Liverpool find themselves collapsing to a 1-1 draw. And it is... I've got Mike Nevin, Gareth Roberts and Mel Reddy with me. And I actually want to go to Mike first on this in terms of the collapsing to a 1-1 draw line. We do a lot of the history shows and we talk through this sort of stuff. And it is one of the sadnesses of modern football. And I mean modern football like going over a long spell. I noticed Rory Smith tweeted on it in the week that when Liverpool got a draw in Moscow, that it was seen as a bad result, and that a draw in Moscow, he was saying, should probably always in some way be seen as a good result because of all the other factors. But it's not now, and that's fine, and I'll accept that reality. In the same way, and this is not me in any way, shape or form, Mike's acting as though it isn't. I think it's a really bad result for Liverpool, but it is just a little bit of a shame that an away draw at a difficult place to go is now genuinely 2 points dropped, because that is 2 points dropped yesterday for Liverpool.
Yeah, without question. And the context is, sort of City and United apparently disappearing beyond the horizon. So it puts pressure on you to win those games. But then it was ever thus, really. I mean, ever since 3 points for a win came in, getting a third of the points never feels enough. And, around the other results of the weekend, again, there's further pressure. Okay, 1 point clear of the top four, but behind the race for the fourth, if you like. But ultimately, that's, in terms of our progress and our desires for the season, it sort of feels like, the pursuit of the league. We've put pressure on ourselves, massive pressure already. We're already playing catch up. We've got two really difficult games coming up. You can look at it with a fair amount of cold blood at the moment, I think, because you can make arguments for why the results have been as they have been. But we might be having a different conversation in 3 weeks' time.
Mel, the next part of this as well is something that I saw Dan Kenneth tweet out last night, which is Liverpool are 2 points better off than from the corresponding fixtures last year. But I'll say it again, that is 2 points dropped. And at the minute, that result yesterday was the very thing Liverpool did not need. And it's thrown in with the European results as well. I don't think that the League Cup Leicester thing is that much of a factor. But with the European results as well, Liverpool at the minute is a club that's just found itself, a team and a club that's just found itself in this little bit of a funk. And at the minute, I think everybody's suffering.
Yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp nailed it. I was trying to find some way to describe it, and I think he said a few weeks ago it seems to be a self-fulfilling prophecy where you know what's going to happen in a game, you know what's going to happen, I know, and it seems like the players feel that exact same way, and things are just materializing as everyone expects it to, and it's this endless loop of watching the same game, the same issues, and there's not a lot of issues, but they're critical issues because they happen in both boxes where points are won and lost generally. And I think why it's so frustrating, the period from when the last international break ended to this one now starting, is because Liverpool haven't been awful. Liverpool have played some really good football against good sides as well, and things that we were talking about last season, like struggling to create against deep defences, that's not been the issue. Liverpool are creating clear-cut chances. I think it's been 4 each in the last 2 games. And they're just not getting these games over the line. And once your key strength is not being maximised, you allow yourself and your weaknesses to be exploited and to be enhanced. And, I've seen a lot of debate about which department is to blame. First, I think it's a collective failure, this entire period. But, there are some still insisting it's a defence. You've got to be able to keep a clean sheet. And go and look at Liverpool's games at the start of last season. They weren't keeping many clean sheets, but what they were doing was playing to their strengths. They were nuking those chances. The attack was absolutely breathless. That attack's only been enhanced, but it's malfunctioning at the moment.
Mood music is a thing around the football club, Gareth, and it's a thing around a season. And we're now in a situation, I think it is difficult. I was sitting next to Ben Johnson watching the game yesterday, and I was worried for him, to be honest with you. He was genuinely finding it hard last 10-15 because you grow, you reach an age where you and I have been watching football and paying attention to it since we're 5, 6, becoming aware of it, the way a season ebbs and flows from the age of 10, 11. And, in amongst all of that, the years without the league title, which we all crave so much. But it's more than just that. You learn the markers of when you feel as though a season can get away from you. And it can get away from you even when you're playing all right on and off, even when people are doing, broadly speaking, the right things. You can find yourself all of a sudden with a season that just flaps loose. And I think that's what's got everyone in a panic, in that there's a lot of us now, and Klopp himself might be thinking, hang on, I've been a bit mad. But it's because we've seen seasons flap loose, and this is the worry that this one, it doesn't take much for it to come off its hinges at this stage.
No, exactly, and I think that's it. I think you're right to say at the top that, you know, draws away from home aren't necessarily the worst results and that sort of thing, but it's just the context of it, isn't it, right now? And it's the context of seeing a side making the same mistakes over and over again, and of these games seemingly being on repeat, and the mood around the club just isn't great. And you know, I was there yesterday. I was in the away end. There was the back row of the level 7, which was and nearly killed myself getting up them steps. But you know, just the mood all around us amongst the supporters. There's a real frustration, and the frustration is that, you know, it's the here we go again. It's, oh no, Liverpool, we've seen this before. You've done it again. You've qualified for the Champions League. You've had an opportunity to push on. You've messed up the transfer window quite a bit. Seemingly, you didn't boost the areas of the squad that needed boosting, i.e. the defence. And then Everton sort of coming to fruition from that as well, and that's the frustration as well. And I think loads of it's dead worrying. I think you know, even down to Klopp, you know, I like him, I support him. I think he should be Liverpool's manager, but I also think a lot of what he does and the way he manages is built on belief, is built on everyone, you know, believing that this side can go out and beat anyone. And that's how we were talking about it last season. That's how, you know, every single game you went into, particularly against bigger sides, you just thought, yeah, we can go and smash these. You know, Klopp has them playing with no fear. They'll get in the faces. They'll do this. They'll do this. They'll do this. And then this season, it just seems to have ebbed away so quickly, and they just seem so fragile now as a side to me. You know, there are patches of decent play. There are bits where you go, yeah, that's it. But it also seems that you know, you used the word funk before, and it seems that them as a collective, as a group, are in a funk, and like it seems like when they concede a goal, they feel sorry for themselves. They don't do the good stuff that. So you know, being up there yesterday was really frustrating to watch, because you could see passes that were on, and I know that's a danger because they're playing at pitch level and you're in the sky. But what I mean by that, but what I mean by that is you could see that they could see the pass, but we're going, I'm going to play the safe one instead. And they weren't, you know, they weren't moving it fast enough at times. They weren't taking risks enough.
Second half especially.
Too many players as well. You know, I've never seen Mane have a game like that in terms of his touch. It was all over the show. And it is really, really worrying, because we picked up the Fab Four and all that sort of thing. We were like, you know, these boys can go and blow a side away, and that's how we're going to get it all back. And then when that's not happening, it's like, well, how do we get out of this now? Because it's not going to be built on solid defence, because we haven't got one. And if the lads up front who you expect to score goals don't, then how do we get out of it again? And, you know, Firmino's dropped off a cliff all of a sudden in terms of being able to influence a game and score and everything else. Sturridge has a bad game there yesterday as well. And all of a sudden you're like, well, where's our goals coming from? And meanwhile, again, talking about context here, it's really hard to watch someone like Harry Kane putting them in every week and being a great player, and you're like, imagine we had him, and so it's just that hard to be a Liverpool fan right now. I think
the worrying thing about yesterday was that where in the lead up to yesterday there was the frustration with draws, and it's not been a great month, but I didn't think we played well yesterday. That was for me far and away our worst performance of the season. And the cliched thing around, you know, we can't defend. Okay, we conceded one goal. It was a really soft goal to concede. And that we've been missing chances, but we've been missing halffuls of chances. Yes, I thought yesterday, really, I mean, I think Elliott in their goal, he only makes one save, which is the one from Sturridge. Aside from that, I thought in the first half, we started relatively well, but within about 5 to 7 minutes, I thought they were controlling it. Shelvey was given far too much time on the ball. I thought he was running the game for parts of the first half, especially. And I don't think you can overestimate how much they're missing Lallana. And the pressing's dropped off as well. And, you know, for him to have that much time on the ball to pick that pass, albeit that I still think it's a great ball, was criminal, really. And I think the second half actually reawakened fears that we were talking about last year, which hasn't been so prominent this year, which is about breaking down a deep line defence. And Rafa had them organised brilliantly in 2 banks of 4. I mean, dare I say it was a bit Hodgson-esque at times, and you could see them, moving across like lads on a bar football table. But regimented and very, very solid. And I just didn't think we were creating enough. We weren't breaking them down, but there was no tempo. That stall was set very early second half. And as Gareth said there, we weren't moving the ball quick enough. And I think that's a manifestation of losing confidence eventually, is that you stop slipping passes off instinctively and you wait and you think, I won't, I'll play the safe ball. And that is the worry when you go through phases like against Spartak and against Burnley. We played well and we created lots of good chances and didn't take them. And the worry is that you'll go through a phase of games like that and you don't get the results, and that eats away at the confidence, and eventually you come to a point where you're not creating as many chances. And I think just relating to yesterday's game, I think we're over-egging that, because I just didn't think we created much.
There wasn't like a go-to player, if you know what I mean, either. It was about, when you're looking at a situation, you're thinking, well, but like old school Liverpool, give it to McManaman and he'll sort it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't that yesterday either. There wasn't anyone where you just thought, well, he's flying there, so give it to him and he's going to win us the game. Like I say, Mane was off it. Coutinho obviously scores a worldie, and that's fantastic. It was good enough to win any game, not really. And then we give away the soft one. But I just didn't see the second half. Me and Craig were looking at each other. There was like, I think, 7-8 minutes to go. And we were both saying, we're not going to score it, yeah. You just couldn't feel that it was going to happen. It just seemed we've accepted that this is just going to be a draw now.
Yeah, and if there's a worrying link there, just say we played much better against Spartak, but the last 15-20 minutes in midweek was similar. You got the feeling that we'd blown ourselves out basically by not getting the second goal, and I thought there was more of that yesterday.
There have been massive drop-offs between the first half and second half in terms of performance and intensity and stuff in general. But I take your point, I didn't think Liverpool played as well as they have in previous games at St James's Park yesterday. Saying that though, there's still 4 clear-cut big chances to win the game, and ordinarily you think if you're looking at snapshots yesterday, periods of play, it just seemed to sum up Liverpool from that City game till now. It was like a microcosm of everything. I mean, the Wijnaldum volley that comes off the near post, then Lovren's follow-up shot is blocked on the line, then Mane hits that shot wide. If you look at the technical area during that period of play, if you look at the rest of the pitch, all the players, their responses, everyone's just looking at it and it's this thing of, oh my gosh, not this again. Or what do we need to do here?
I think you're right to point that out, and I do still think that that's there in their heads, and you can see it in Klopp as well, and he finds it difficult to hide his emotions. And I'm not criticising him for this, but I think he's got to wear a bit more of a mask, because that's transmitting itself to the team as well. He's rolling his eyes, he's got that sort of phlegmatic look on his face, and I just think that
I think it's funny, Mike. I'll come on to you on this, because they weren't, these two were at the game and they won't have seen it. But there's that point second half where I think a couple of subs are made, or there's a break in play. Klopp calls Henderson over and he's like, "Calm it down."
Yeah,
and it's really strange in that. Firstly, if anything, we're playing too slowly. So it might be just trying to say, relax into your football, boys, and it'll come, and that might be his mindset, and that's fine. But it's back to, he doesn't half-ask a lot in terms of, he wants you to be all action right up until but he wants you to be dead calm as well. And there is, at times, I'm watching it thinking, we've got to sort of pick one. And I'm happy whichever one we pick. Like, if we'd have absolutely thrown the kitchen sink at Newcastle last 10 and being exhausting them and moving all over the place, and it just becomes dead difficult to play against us and get out and all of that sort of stuff last 10 because we're all action sound. If we'd have just controlled the ball last 10 and we were probing and looking, I'd go sound. But we're not doing one or the other a lot of the time here, and that's what I'm finding frustrating and difficult. But then when you do look at the sidelines and you look at the fact that, as you say, he's wearing these misses on a personal level now, as though he's the one who's missed them. I almost just want to see him going, it's coming, it's coming, rather than, I can't believe that's not gone in. And that sounds ridiculously harsh, because you want your manager to feel as though he's involved. And there's, again, it's back to the times your biggest strength becomes your biggest weakness for all of us in life. Yeah. But there is that sort of, come on, lads, just act like it's coming here, rather than act like, oh God, it's gone wrong again. Yeah, and
I think, if he struggles really with that wrestling between the two mentalities, is that, I think his plan A, if you like, is to play the helter-skelter and to effectively, make the most of Liverpool's qualities, which is about pace and incision. And I think when you're looking to maybe just instill a bit of patience because there's that frustration around the fact that you're not scoring goals, then maybe asking them to hold back a bit isn't necessarily the right thing to do. But at the same time, we're probably not controlling games in the way that we'd like to see it. There's never really been a sense this season, I think, where we've been in control of football matches, other than maybe Arsenal and Hoffenheim at home. The rest of the games, it feels like we've sort of lost a measure of control of the game. And Rafa talks a lot about controlling matches. Sometimes when he was with Liverpool, he'd say we were controlling games, and actually you'd say, well, I find that hard to see because we've been under pressure. But so there's a perception of what control a games means, but I as I say, I think Klopp is not really about that, and we've often said when managers lose their, the sort of the courage of their convictions, then that's dangerous territory. Having said that, I don't think we're anywhere near, the point where you can begin to sort of be asking questions of him long term. This is still a blip. We haven't played bad football. We're not getting beat. And there's got to be some perspective around it. But
it's everything that's around it as well, though, isn't it? I mean, literally before we've done this morning, like for instance, the BBC have come in here, spoke to me, and they're putting something together about Klopp. They're putting something together about Klopp, saying, is this him now under pressure? Is this now a question about his job? And of course, I say no, and explain why. But the very fact that they're doing that, the very fact that Liverpool are on a lot of the media's agenda, as almost a crisis club now, and a crisis manager, and that affects minds as well. That's going to affect. It's going to affect fans. It's going to affect the mood inside Anfield, and it's surely going to affect the players as well. I just think they end up going into almost a cocoon where they don't want to play the confident football that they're capable of and start doing that safe stuff. And the safe stuff doesn't win you football matches.
I think this is more of an aside than a commentary on the way things are going at the moment. But I sort of predicted this 2 years ago when he came in and everyone immediately put him on a pedestal and excuses were being made for performance. It was Rodgers' team. He needs a pre-season. He needs his own players. And I think just by putting him on a pedestal straight away, I thought to myself, well, the crash could be quite spectacular when it comes. And I think it's probably people who are absolutely bang into him to begin with who are coming out with the more insane level of criticism.
It's the ridiculous expectations, which...
And he's sorry to interrupt there, Mel, I'm on one here, but basically, I think he's also raised the expectations himself because he got to cup finals, and last season broadly was a positive one. We're back in the Champions League, and on the face of it, we started this season really well. So there was expectation raising by his performance, but equally just through the notion of who he is and what his record is. And as I say, he will come into for criticism, and he will be a media focus because of who he is and the way that we perceive him.
Is there something, Mel, in the idea that in general, and I think this is the case for all football managers, so it's important to make that clear, that he's very, very strong in terms of all good football managers. He's a very, very strong momentum manager. And I think it becomes, this is where I'm of the view that it's difficult. And I think he found it difficult when it was, and we've only lost 2 in 7. We're saying we've only won 1 in 7. We've only lost 2 in 7. But for instance, I think he was finding it difficult last January just to sort of solve the problems of last January, early February. How do I get this sort of boxed off now? And I think because he's so committed to the way in which he wants to play his football, there's not going to be a grandiose change of strategy or plan because he's just worked all pre-season on this is how we play, this is the way Liverpool play, this is who we are. We've had a season to nail on this identity and then going from there. And I think it does become, and this is me sticking up for him in that I think that all managers have strengths and weaknesses, and I think that in the same way that I think when he gets Liverpool on a run, it's going to take a great performance to knock them off a run. It's going to take a certain something, isn't it, to get them when they're on a bad run. It does take something to nudge them out of that mode and back moving forward. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think a big issue is when you talk about that January period, the last tough spell Liverpool have really had. It took one game basically to do that. It took the Liverpool won against City, then went and drew at Sunderland, and the players were like, oh, we've blown our title shot here. They went into the year as Chelsea's closest challengers, and one game made them doubt themselves. Oh, we're not good enough. Oh, and again, as Robbo said, it's the narrative around it that everyone's saying. Liverpool, have done it again. They've blown it. Can't keep a lead. And that psychological aspect, I think, comes into things too quickly. And I think we have seen it play out now through all these games where it's the same, like we've said, it seems like we're watching the same game on repeat. You can write all the same things about it. You can pick up on the same flaws. And it is, when you look at the reactions, like we've said in the technical, it's this frustration because why is the same thing continually happening? And I think it is a crisis of confidence. I think Gareth made a good point where he said the fear kicks in because you're so desperate to do well, and conversely, you're desperate not to mess things up. And that hampers your natural instincts. And if that team is not playing without fear and not playing, if it's not that all-out attack and everyone just backing themselves, you do get what we've seen, which is them not doing the job up front, and then by nature, it comes on everyone behind them to do the job. And we can sit and be critical of the defence, and they do deserve massive criticism all the way through, you know, from the forwards not pressing as much as they used to, from midfielders not picking up runners, from the centre-backs just completely switching off and not being able to read play where everyone else can see that Chelsea ball is coming and that the gap between them is too wide. But, I mean, those chances, stick away those chances, and none of us are talking about this. Pep Guardiola made a great point when, after the City-Chelsea game, he said last season he thought City played better than they did this, but the result, City don't win that game, and City are in crisis. City have so many problems to solve. And he said, you know, the result is dictating what everyone talks about. Now, the issue, obviously, with Liverpool is they're having the same result over and over and over again.
On Mike, just to come again, one more little thing on this before we sort of get into the specifics around little bits of the game. But the other thing that struck me was I couldn't work out, and maybe, again, the manager's sitting there and he's going, well, that's what I want. But I couldn't work out whether or not we were sticking or twisting at 1-0. I couldn't work out whether or not the idea was right. We've got 1-0. Now we look to do everything we can to make it 2-0. Or if the idea was, right, let's get the half. So Henderson goes down with a bit of a blag injury straight after the goal, and I'm thinking that's exactly the right thing to do. Take a little bit of time now. Let's not do the thing where we get all caught up in it and all of this sort of stuff. Let's actually go back to and almost play like it's 0-0 and phase the game a little bit, and I'm thinking that's the right thing. But then they didn't do that much of that either. It just suddenly becomes, again, it flaps loose, and then all of a sudden it's 1-1, and it's both bad and unfortunate, and we'll come on to that. But I don't know what you think, but I don't know whether or not the idea was we've got to put the hammer down now because it's foot on throat time, or if the idea was no, it's all right, we're just going to play calmly. And I can't see which decision was made and where that was coming from.
Well, I mean, whatever the decision that was made post our opening goal, we didn't put the hammer down, and I think we've actually lapsed into a habit of not doing that. And I think you need to ride the momentum. I mean, one of the adages in football is that you're always at your most vulnerable when you've just scored. I mean, I personally think that's a load of rubbish. I think who's feeling worse when a goal's just been scored? It's the team that's just conceded. And I think there's enough about Liverpool, and there's enough intensity and enough quality to be thinking, do you know what, we've really hurt them there. Let's take the next 5 or 10 and put this game to bed. And I think you've got if we are a momentum team, let's accentuate and ride that momentum. And I don't think we're quite doing that. But again, that could be it could be a belief thing. And you know, if the results, if you want your 1-0 at Chelsea, if you want your 1-0 away from home per se, then when that begins to feed into your mentality, naturally you're going to take the foot off the pedal. I just don't think it's the right thing for this team to be doing.
All right, going through it then, and starting with the first half up to the equaliser. Gareth, look, it shouldn't take the glorious goal that it takes. There is the scramble from the corner. There is the fact that Liverpool, I think Newcastle start off all action, then Liverpool grow into it. They're looking the better sides. They're not quite looking the more likely, but they are looking like it's going to come for them at some sort of point. But it is a glorious goal. And, you know, it is one which I think the goalkeeper's gone for the pedigree. He thinks this fella's brilliant at putting it the other side. So you can see he takes one little step, he's having a little think about it, and then he whips it the other way. It's a great finish from him.
Yeah, superb goal. And the whole end went mad. And it was, you know, a great moment. And And literally, when I say the end went mad, that song was, the Coutinho song was getting absolutely boomed by the end, and that was brilliant because, you know, there's still some sort of, you know, residual bad feeling against them over the summer. And personally, I think all that should be forgotten now. We've got a great player on our hands. He can win matches. He can do things like that. And he must love that moment, do you know what I mean, as much as we do. He must love to hear our end booming that song out. So yeah, that was fantastic. But then I think as we're saying here, really, we didn't really build on it. I mean, I think you're right in saying that you could see how the match was panning out, or you thought you could see how the match was panning out at that point. Liverpool have all the ball. It's sort of up to them to do something with it. Newcastle are in that shape that we mentioned earlier. You could see them all, you know, just deep, just chasing shadows, just trying to keep us away from their goal, really, but not offering much going the other way. And it just felt, it was one of them again where you just watch it and it's like, it's in our hands here to do something with this situation and this plan. It's in our hands to win the match, basically. And then we don't. And then we're back to having the same conversations. But, you know, perhaps there isn't enough clear things. I mean, I'm quite surprised that people are talking about lots of chances and stuff like that because it didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like that being there. It felt like, yes, you know, Ronaldo hits the post. Yes, Coutinho scores. Yes, Sturridge has that chance and he should score as well. But there was no, like, I never felt like there was a huge head of steam, do you know what I mean? Like, I never felt like it's coming here. And I never felt like when you used to watch United and just think, these bastards are going to score any minute here because you can just sense it because they're flooding all over them, they're moving the ball, they're making things happen. It felt a bit to me like they were just kept falling down alleys, getting so far up the pitch and then sort of not knowing what to do with it, making the wrong decision, people miscontrolling. And I don't know, they just weren't at it enough. And you know, the goals are worldy, yeah, but it wasn't sustained over a long period of time at any point during the match.
I think the issue I have with the goal is, up until that point, it was the same frustrations of, and I was sat with the local patch. So, and every time Liverpool broke, and there was one with Salah with that clever ball to Mane, there was this, here goes Liverpool. There was another one where Mane broke, and it was that you can just hear them go because they know that, yeah, in those moments Liverpool can be absolutely deadly, and it never came off. And so you get this frustration, this annoyance, and probably the players are thinking same thing again. Coutinho bails you out there. And he shows you, okay, come on, it's not this again. Here's the goal. Let's go. Let's build on this. And, you know, the moment that we speak about with Wijnaldum off the post, the Lovren off the line, that happens before this. So, okay, you've missed that, but here's your goal. Here's your goal to go and build on. And it happens too quickly that they allow Newcastle to get one in. And it's allowing them because, as much as we say Liverpool didn't create a lot yesterday, what did Newcastle create?
Well, very little. Just referencing the goal again. I mean, I thought it was interesting though that Coutinho wasn't actually in the game until that point. I mean, we were watching on TV, and my dad said to me, "I don't think Coutinho's laid a touch on the ball yet," and then he scores. And not being critical of him, it's an absolutely fantastic goal, and it's a goal that we've become used to really. And finishing wise, he gets better and better. We just don't take our lead from it. I think that's our lead from it. It's just that ability to really ram it home in the minutes to follow. There are 7 minutes between us scoring and then getting back on terms, and I don't think we did enough in that 7 minutes.
Just in general, though, I'll go back to Mel before bringing Gareth in. You mentioned that the lovely Salah ball that's right into Mane's path, and I think Mane, I want to come on to three of them in particular, but I think Mane is one of them. But I think I'd argue you're allowed a bad day at the office, possibly if you're Sadio Mane. But one of the things that I think we keep doing is we keep reassuring the opposition it's not going to be as bad as you think. So I take your point completely. Coutinho's dug it out and he scored the 25-yarder. But I sort of think the goal where we pull you apart and just knock it into the bottom corner because we've absolutely undone you demoralises you more. And going back to by the time Coutinho scores that goal, Newcastle are beginning to think to themselves, actually, this isn't that bad. And I think this is one of the frustrations at the moment for this Liverpool side, in that if they could, for instance, by the time we go 3-0 up against Hoffenheim, using the Hoffenheim game as an example, Hoffenheim now, we are getting beat today.
Yeah.
This is all done. This is all over. They are better than us. But the reason why is because when Liverpool undo Hoffenheim, it's so dramatic and it's so emphatic, and we're just better than you. The problem that we have at the minute is I think we're allowing sides to just think to themselves, we just hang on in. We just hang on in. It's not as bad as we expect. They're not as good as we think. We're hanging on in. The manager's plan's all right. We're hanging on. We'll get something.
You're absolutely spot on that point I was making about sitting amongst the local patch and them having that, and then it doesn't come in. There's like a let off, and it's comforting that when
you draw strength from situations where you think you're getting away with it, don't you? And it gradually builds belief, and I think you saw that in the way that they played. Yeah,
I think I was going to mention Rafa's Valencia. Do you remember they used to be known as sort of the crushing machine and all that sort of thing? Well, Liverpool are like just the opposite of that really at the moment. In that you're all saying it here. They don't feel like a team that's going to absolutely blow you away. The Hoffenheim's a great example because that was just like they all come out and we're like, right, we're better than these. That manager's been talking shite. Let's get into them. Let's show them that we're better. Let's win the game. Let's make it, and it's all over and it's done and everyone's buzzing. And it's like at the moment you can see what we mentioned before about how it's all seeping into the brains, about how the current situation, if you like.
The irritating thing is they've got the ability to do that. They've got the ability to go out. And I think that's why, as a fan base, people are looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, and there's so much negativity and stuff. It's because you know what they're capable of if it clicks.
What was frustrating me as well, and maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but was... it's just the way it is to be a fan. Like, so you see bits of City's game, for instance, against Chelsea, and you see like De Bruyne, and look, I know he's a brilliant player, but you see him almost go, I'm going to make this goal happen here. Do you know what I mean? Like a scruff of the neck moment, like just going, fuck this. Exchange passes, bang, goal, like a Gerrard-esque moment, if you like.
You could say Coutinho did that for us.
Exactly.
He does that, but it's like it doesn't seem to happen enough. It just feels like we're a bit nice and a bit accepting of the situation at times. That safe football in the second half was so frustrating because it was like, stop being safe. Why are you being safe?
Yeah, I mean, I must say though, on yesterday's game in particular, and where I think we weren't anywhere near as we've been good as we've been in other games, was I think you lose loads when Firmino's not playing, and I know people have been critical of him recently, and he's not scoring enough goals, and he's apparently a bit leggy at the moment. But I think you saw the drop off in our intensity, and what Mel describes there as our ability to be able to blow teams away. I'm not sure that you have that when Sturridge is playing. And I'm his biggest fan as a footballer. I think he's wonderful to watch. In some ways, I can see a future for him as a midfielder, a creative midfielder, as he grows older. But in his current physical state, I just don't think Liverpool can play in Klopp's desired image within him as the central player in that front three.
On that, Mike, I'll come back to because it was something I was just about to make the point after Gareth. When Gareth grabs De Bruyne grabbing it by the scruff of the neck, the other thing that irritates you about yesterday, and more than happy to have the general conversation about Sturridge, whether what you're saying is absolutely spot on or not. My point is that if you're Liverpool in general, the goal that you concede is a horrible goal to concede. No one's great, and then you're unlucky. And then they make a massive defensive howler. Put your striker in, the fella who's here, who you've sacrificed Firmino for because you're playing this fella because you think he's the finisher, and then he doesn't put it away. Yeah. And that's where I think there is... And then Salah, you even get one more bite at it, and Salah misses. And that's where I think, forget almost the psychological factor of this. This is a real, you've got to punish them there because we're getting punished all the time. We need to feel like you're getting punished because they should be punished for that. The lad's made a complete pig's ear of it. He has an otherwise really good game. The two Newcastle centre-halves thought both played really well. But in that moment when they get it wrong, going back to the fact that they don't create anything else either, apart from that last Diarmi chance last minute, they do nothing else. But they get the one where we've cocked up. And we don't do enough, but we get that one, and it's got to go in the back of the net. It's got to.
I mean, I think it is a bad miss as well, because there was quite a big gap.
You can go round him.
You can either go across him and round him, or he can just slot it on his near post, if you like. There was a big gap to the right of Elliott's right foot, where he can just place it in the corner, and he hits it straight at him. It makes it easy for him to make a save. I'm not as bothered about Salah's miss because I think he looks a bit off balance, and it didn't seem like a natural finish anyway. But if Sturridge is going to play, and I think most of us were sort of encouraged to see him in the lineup at the start, because you're thinking, well, you know, if we get a sniff today and we create our usual 6 or 7 chances, he's taken 2 of them. I mean, as it stands, we don't create as many chances. He gets the one obvious one and he misses it. And then you do find it hard then to justify his inclusion off the back of that. And that's obviously with the benefit of hindsight. He scores, it's a different story, but the fact is he doesn't. And that, again, feeds the whole sort of cliched thing about Liverpool not being able to take the chances.
If you're backing anyone, that chance to fall to anyone on that pitch that he's had so much joy in a Liverpool shirt, and even before he came to Liverpool, loves playing against Newcastle at St. James's Park. You're backing him to score that, and he doesn't. And if that happens at the other end of the pitch, that exact mistake, and falls to one of their players, any one of their players, it's going in. And I think Liverpool are living in this moment where they are feeling a bit sorry for themselves, and they have to shake it immediately, because you cannot, there's only so long you can feel sorry for yourself.
A whole international break, Mel.
Oh gosh, no.
So I mean, for once, I think it's coming a good time, that, and obviously the fixture that we've got once the break's finished. I think it's probably quite good that they're all getting away from each other for 10 days or so. Because I mean, that
sick of the size of each other.
Yeah, they're all doing each other's heads in for
that bus back's no fun there.
I mean, as fans, we get a bit frustrated by international breaks, but I think Liverpool have got to see this one as a positive in any way that they can, and come back and almost have like a complete reset.
The equaliser then, go around each of you really. Everything about it, Gareth's annoying. I know you were up in the gods, but you've seen it since. Everything about it's annoying. Sturridge loses cheaply. The shape, and I think that the shape on the whole, the shape up to that point I thought was really strong. I thought that I was really pleased with the shape. We were talking about it. We were saying, like the way in which we talk about the fact that they don't really get another clear-cut chance throughout the rest of the game until that last-minute thing that drops to Diarmi. And that's, again, almost what annoys you more than anything else. The shape's really, really strong, but then it isn't in this instance. There's no pressure on Shelvey. He can play the pass. Matip can see absolutely everything. They don't quite play the lad offside. You do wonder whether or not one of them's thinking about that. He might just be marginally off, but he's not clearly off, is my point. If you can't go to the liner and say you've screwed us here, linesman. It's not fair, because he's got to look at when Shelvey plays the pass and what he can see, and it is difficult. And even then, Matip manages, breaks his neck to get back in. Even though I think he is the one who's more at fault if you knock around a portion and blame. And it bounces off the lads. I mean, it's unlucky, but it's also, everything about it just makes you absolutely fume. Yeah,
it just all seems so preventable, doesn't it? And any defence is surely based on understanding and organisation, and there was no evidence of either in that goal, in that moment, and it is so frustrating, because, as I said earlier, we've seen Liverpool, we've seen any football side win games where they're not brilliant, but a moment of magic wins it for you. And that's what that should have been yesterday. We should have come away saying, we should have been talking about how good Coutinho is and what a goal that was. And how we didn't play that well, but we'll take 1-0 all day and go into an international break. And instead, we're just talking about our defence again, why they can't see that, why they can't stop that. And also the luck thing. I mean, some people absolutely hate the luck conversation. But, it comes off the lad's shin and could go anywhere. And it rolls in the corner, for fuck's sake.
I mean, it's just... The fact that it's even in the corner. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like every aspect of it. The fact that it doesn't go fast. Yeah. Every last bit of it feels like it feels like some sort of goal designed to needle you.
Yeah. The thing with misfortune, though, is if you do your job better initially, you don't have to bank on fortune. And I think that's the irritation. Like you say, Neil, the shape is so good, and people say Liverpool can't generally defend, but actually in large swaths they do it so well, and they just let themselves down. When you talk about teams that allow a few chances against them, you're talking about City and Spurs, but what City and Spurs do conversely is the chances they get, they make sure they maximise them. And this Liverpool team is not doing that. They're not converting enough as they should. They're not, those periods of dominance they have, it's not translating to the scoreboard, which then means and Klopp has said this before, every time they make one mistake, they get punished. But you allow that one mistake to count if you're not putting your chances away at the other end. And I think the issue again with that goal is the communication. They're too far apart for a start. They can, if they can see the pass coming, step up and make sure he's offside. And none of it's small, simple things. And you watch Klopp on the touchline, and the ball is looping over, and you can see him there in shot, and he's like gesturing to them, and it's. I don't know what you can say. I don't know if it's the mindset not being able to switch quick enough from, hey, we're dominating this period of play, to, whoa, it's not a fence now. Now we've got to concentrate on other elements. But a ball like that, it's a very good ball from Shelby. And by the way, Mike, you're spot on earlier with what you were saying. He was given way too much time to pick passes and to get shots away as well. He was coming a lot deeper to do that, but he was allowed to do it. And the few chances, there weren't real chances, but the few times that Newcastle did attack in the first half, it was all through him switching the play, some really good direct balls from him. But knowing that he can pick that pass, and you, like Neil said, it sort of happens in slow motion, really. And them not being able to do the two things that could prevent that goal, then being able to recover and seeing it go in.
I think if we're trying to be tight in the wake of the goal, for me, the too high up. I mean, because once it's through you, there's no real margin for error, and it's a clear run on goal. And I think with Matip, you know, he's just people have talked about the fact that he's not side on, and obviously you need to be side on because you can still look forward, you can still see the pass, and you can still react to that pass when it's played. But he's flat-footed. That's the thing for me, and it was exactly the same at Manchester City on more than one occasion. He's on his heels as opposed to on his toes, and that makes it much more difficult for you to get back. He gets back well enough. With the tackle, yeah, of course he's unlucky. I mean, it's a bizarre deflection that ends up in the corner. But equally, I just wonder whether the challenge is robust enough and whether that goes out for the corner. I don't know. But I think more than anything else, I think they're too high up. They're not leaving themselves margin for error. If the philosophy is, yeah, we'll go out and we do everything now to get a second, I'm sort of okay with that. But we weren't doing that. And then, as I say, his stance and his positioning and being on his heels, it's ridiculous for a top-class defender.
I find the whole thing, and you can sound, I want to be really clear about this, none of us sitting around this table have played top-level football, etc., etc., so you can sound, I think you can sound a bit daft. You can make yourself sound a little bit daft, but one of the things that gets me about it is, I don't know if they're too high or if they're too deep. I just think they're just, like, the line is just the wrong place. You're either committed and you're on the halfway line, and we're playing unbelievably, you know, that's it. That's what we're doing. That's where you are, and so therefore you're catching them offside, or you're accepting the fact that one of you've got to be a little bit close to each other. One of you's always got to be prepared to go deeper. The other one's got to be prepared to come front, and it's that straightforward. That you're either therefore one of you is a little bit deeper and prepared for it, or you just got the attitude of no sod this. We don't think this fella's fast. We're on top. We want to be on top. And as I say, you can always worry that you're talking about the finest of fine margins in a footballing sense, and you can sound like, you know, like pint-sized pundits if you don't watch yourself. But I do think it is so frustrating when you're just thinking, lads, you either go 1-on-1 and split, or you've got the attitude of, no, we're dominating everything here. And the frustrating, and I'm sure the manager, when he watches the tape back and all of this sort of stuff, but you know, he is the one fundamentally responsible, and that should always be put front and centre because he does coach them and he organises them. But I just want them to pick. And this is back to my thing in the aftermath of the goal. Just pick,
Communicate and pick, yeah.
Communicate and pick. Whichever one it is, just pick.
I think what's happened over the course of quite a few of the last few games, and it was evident at Leicester as well, in the game that we won at the weekend, is that I think they've become overly obsessed with being in a line and not getting caught. And against Vardy last week, they're looking across, are we in line? And I think the ability for one to stay and one to drop has almost disappeared with that, because they're obsessed with not getting caught out in the sense where they're not in line, because that happened at City originally, although I think it was Clavan in that case that gets caught. But, you know, just talking about Liverpool centre-halves in general, but the ability to have someone drop and read the danger, it's got to be there. It's reactive defending. Carragher and Hippier were a perfect example of a partnership that had that boxed off to a T, where they knew one stays, one goes, and they know which of them at various points are doing whichever role there. And I think the two of them just look very, very static, obsessed with being in a line. And if you are going to be like that, at least be on your bloody toes, because there's going to come a point where someone slices you open. You've got to get back.
The keeper is the next part of this. If we're going to just go right the way through all this, Gareth, for me, if you freeze frame it and they're where they are, I do probably want them a bit higher. That said, if he had been a bit higher, I don't think it would have been and races towards it. I do think Joselu gets there first. If you put him where you'd like him to be in an ideal world, I think he probably comes off second best. But it might be that he drives him wide and it becomes easier to like. I think if the keeper's higher, he gets a fool made of him. But there's possibly more chance the ball doesn't go in. If you sort of see what I mean. And I think that's a conversation worth having.
Well, it's just back to the thing. They don't look like they function as a unit. They don't look like a defence you can rely on or lean on. And I think what's worrying for me now is, when I was thinking about it coming home yesterday after the game was, like, how do you make it better? Like, what do you do? What's the answer now? I mean, people saying things like, I would have preferred to see Robertson start. That wouldn't have changed that situation. We're talking about the centre-halves and the goalie. That's what you just asked me. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm like, well,
can't argue with the facts on that, can I?
But what's the alternatives there? Yeah. Like the other goalie, well, no one sold on him. Danny Ward, well, he's getting a go in the League Cup. He's not going to probably play in the Premier League anytime soon. Klavan, most people don't like Klavan. Most people don't think he's good enough. Most people think he looks like what he is, a £4 million defender in his 30s. So and people are saying, I've heard people say, move Gomez across and play him centre half, and he had a nightmare. So it's really hard at the moment right now to sort of look at it and go, okay, well, this is how it all sorts itself out.
Tell you what, though, Nathaniel Klein's boss these days, isn't he?
He's got better and better.
He was crap in August. He was crap in August when Trent Alexander-Arnold's blamming in free kicks, whereas now, best right back in Europe.
Yeah.
Mel, it is. I mean, where do you want the goalkeeper? It's an easy one to go either way on, really.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think it's such an annoyance because Liverpool have bits that they'd want in a goalkeeper in all three of them, but not all in one of them. And there were a few moments yesterday that Liverpool could have been on the attack quicker if Mignolet could have released and distributed quicker, which Karius can do, but then you've seen Karius not save things that he should be saving, whereas Mignolet has been saving things. Karius would have taken a higher position there and when the goal was conceded. But this is just... I think it's not going to be perfect, but I think you can improve simple, basic things like we've spoken about. These are not inexperienced defenders. These are, whatever you think of their quality, especially with Lovren, he's an international centre-back and they should be reading situations better. There was a thing Klopp spoke about where he said the confidence around these situations. He was largely speaking about set pieces and how Liverpool are so desperate to defend them because there's all this talk about them that players gravitate towards the first ball,
and they're not in shape for the second.
Yeah, and I just think that he also the other thing he says was players make the right decisions when they're confident. When they're not confident, there's too many things competing in their heads of what they need to do, and I think that's partly what we've seen, and it is so annoying because I think in any of the games we've watched so far, City aside, because once Mane goes off, that that game has ended. But just parking that one, in every other game, if Liverpool take their chances or take a quarter of them, we're not sitting here talking about the same issues over and over again. And I think the other thing is what we've seen from the teams above us, so City, United, Tottenham, Chelsea, is them actually taking their opportunities when they come. And even if you watched United against Everton, where Everton in the second half actually started dominating the game, commanding things. They were in control. And this is an Everton team that are devoid of pace and, looked largely lacklustre in every other game. And Ashley Williams makes the mistake, presents Lukaku with a chance, and they stick it away. They punish you. Every opportunity they get, they make sure they punish you. Now, Liverpool, and very few can argue against this, have one of the best attacking units in Europe, not just in the league, but in Europe. It's varied. It's got a lot of pace. It's got technique. It's got somebody who can supply and also, blam it in from 30 yards. And how it is malfunctioning to the rate it has. And, people will say, only City have stopped them from scoring, but their chance proportion to their goal proportion is ridiculous. These are lads that are really very, very, very good at football. And as we saw in pre-season, operate well together. And there is a lot of chemistry there. So I think statistically, the guys will tell you that, they're very clever people who follow Liverpool on Twitter and crunch numbers. And they say statistically this makes zero sense and it's bound to switch if you continue playing like this. The right results will come, but just feels so far away at the moment.
It does, and I can't really disagree with anything that Mel says there about. It does feel a bit weird. I think we sort of need to keep reminding ourselves of that we, across the period of whatever 7 or 8 games, we've played some good football and we haven't won the games. What we can't afford to do really is have more of what we saw yesterday, where it begins to drop off. And I think yesterday felt really, really unusual in the sense that none of our leading lights had good games. Particularly Mane obviously had an off day. Salah, I think Salah's actually, whilst being really effective, and no one can argue with his goal return so far, and undeniably is a good addition to the squad and the team. I think he's a bit untidy at times, and his touch does let him down. Sometimes his touch, he'll take a heavy touch, and because he's got the pace to run after it, it can be advantageous at times, which is a bit weird. But I think generally speaking, in performances like yesterday, he was quite frustrating in particular because of sometimes that heavy touch, losing possession or not maximising an opportunity.
He was frustrating, but I want to come on to this with you all before we begin to draw this to a close, because if people are listening, they might think, good Lord, is it ever going to stop? I feel bad enough about this result anyway, lads. But, Mike, I at least felt Salah was in the game through yesterday. I think there's 3 in particular, second half. And listen, for one of them, he's banged one in from 30 yards. And I think it's as much tactical as it is actually their own performance, at least for 2 of them. But Ronaldo, Mane and Coutinho, I barely remember them doing a thing in the second 45 minutes of the game. Barely a thing from all 3 of them. Like, conversation around levels, around missed opportunities, around whatever you want, around the other players, and I'd even include the fullbacks who are arguably in it too much, because that's what Benitez wants to happen and that's what's happening. But Coutinho, Mane and Wijnaldum, I can barely remember them sort of impacting that second half in any substantial way. And I think for one of them in particular, I think you're able to say Coutinho's put one in from 30 yards. You're able to say that Mane, he's due that sort of game. The Wijnaldum fine line of, he's ghosting around and he's really effective, to he's just a ghost, is one which I thought you saw it writ large yesterday. Bar the one opportunity, I honestly don't know what he did for 90 minutes. I honestly don't. Yeah. And I'm watching it on telly, and I might be wrong and unfair, but I want more.
No, you're not being unfair.
I want more.
I thought last season he was predominantly excellent, and I think he does do the unseen work. I think he's one of those really interesting players, actually, that you get more of a sense of his performance when you're at the match than when you watch it on TV, because, as I say, a lot of the work is unseen in the truest sense. But for me this season, he's only really had 2 good games. He started the season slowly, didn't look that effective, and everyone was saying, I'm not quite sure where this drop-off can be explained from. And then he came in and against, I think it was against Arsenal and against Hoffenheim, when Liverpool were at their fluent best this season. He was excellent in those games. But I do think you've got to begin to ask questions about his output in away fixtures. And I don't think you can look at that statistic about never having scored an away goal for Liverpool or Newcastle and not make some sense of it. I'm less bothered about him getting goals if he's still being effective. And for me, you know, for the most part this year, as I say, only a good couple of games. He's not been at the level that he was last season. I think yesterday, you know, him getting the nod over Chan, not debatable. I mean, you can call it one way or the other, but I think Chan's had a better season than Wijnaldum.
The thing about Emre Can is, as much as he can have a bad game,
makes things happen,
and you know he's there. And this is, you know, Henderson's there. Henderson can play well, he can play poorly, but good Lord, you'll see him, and you'll come away from the game going, I've got a view on Henderson. Wijnaldum, we did the post-match show last night, we didn't talk about him, and it was only after we did the post-match show, and I wrote this agenda straight after the post-match show that's in front of you. Not that we really refer to it very much, but I don't even name him. And it was only sort of this morning when I was going, hang on, where on earth was Gini Wijnaldum? What was he doing? What was he offering? I don't remember a tackle. I don't remember an incisive pass. I do remember him hitting the post from the corner. I don't remember an incisive pass. I don't remember an interception. I don't even remember him particularly keeping it ticking. I don't remember going past anyone, Mel. There is nothing in that game where I'm going, well, when I don't remember having a good 10. And this is, I think that's hugely problematic. Because I'm not going to say it's quite like playing with 10 men, but it does not feel like it's not far away from it, unless I'm missing all sorts of clever things around passing lanes.
No, it is concerning, because I think last season he did do a lot of good stuff, and you spoke to the midfielders that played with him, and even the forwards, they were all saying, love playing with him. He does so much of the dirty stuff. He does so much covering, very selfless. Everyone else can push, he'll hold, out to help the fullbacks. So we're talking about all these things, and you looked at it and you could see it. You could see how in a whole he was threading everything together without really ever doing too much. This season has not been the case. Like you say, Mike, he's had his moments and his games, but largely he's been anonymous, and that becomes an issue where Liverpool are having all this ball, and generally it's up to the midfielders to spread the play and keep things moving and to supply this, amazing forward line that we talk about. And if one of them is neither doing the attacking elements in terms of, or doing what he should be doing on the ball, and he's not making any interceptions or tackles or winning any off his duels, then what is the point?
He's been a fascinating footballer to watch in the time that he's been at Liverpool, and I think what we all liked about him last season was his ability to get on the ball, to shield it, to use his backside, show strength on the ball, keep it nicely, and just keep things ticking over. But another underrated quality really was his ability to get beyond the ball and into the box, and he did it from the first game against Arsenal when he arrives in the penalty area, sets up a goal. He did it 5 or 6 times to actually get on the score sheet last season. I don't think we're seeing anywhere near as much of that from him, and I think that might be a confidence issue, because when you're fully yourself, you just go. But when you're playing safe and you're thinking, should I hold my position here? And I think you lose quite a lot of them as a player when that's the case.
There is that, but Gareth, Liverpool supporters love, because we're all idiots. We love a false dichotomy. We love acting like Fowler or Owen. Do you know what I mean? We love, going right the way back. That's now 20 years. If you want to feel old, well, 15. Yeah. But we love that sort of, it's one or the other. And I've seen loads and loads this week, loads and loads, because everyone loves a row. Henderson or Chan. It's Henderson or Chan.
It doesn't have to be.
And also, I don't understand how, I think almost because he's almost ghosting through games, people aren't going, hang on. There's a third fella here. When people are saying, I don't like the way the midfield looks doing X or Y, I don't think we were great by any stretch of the imagination against Spartak, but we at least felt like we had more going on in there.
Yeah.
And this is the, and Chan makes a complete pig's ear of things for what ends up being the opening goal for Spartak. But it isn't Henderson or Chan. It doesn't need to be Henderson or Chan at all. That at least both of them are getting stuck in and involved in games.
Yeah, no, and I saw this stat last night and I just found it because it's what we're talking about. Wijnaldum in the second half, 15 passes, 1 shot, no chances created, no tackles, no aerial duels, no interceptions, no take-ons. Well in, lad. But I mean, when you mentioned Chan before, I think Chan's done all right this season, and what I like about him is, Klopp talked about playing emotional football. He wanted emotional football. That's what he said when he first arrived here. I think at least Chan does that. At least Chan plays that way. Chan plays the way when I'm watching it, I'm like, try and do something here, like show a bit of bollocks, show, drive at them, have a go at them. Don't just keep knocking it side to side and looking like you've run out of ideas. I think at least Chan has that about him. Okay, he's got a rick in him, he's got a mistake in him here and there. But try, it's back to that thing of trying things. And Wijnaldum's not influencing the game there. He's being nice. He's not going, fuck this, I'm at Newcastle and I want to show all these lads who question me over and over that I can perform away from home.
He could have at least remembered how much he enjoyed scoring then, for all time's sake.
Does that, but also, I'll go back to you on this, Gareth. The other thing about this is, and this is where the manager's subs come in, I'm going to talk about this a lot on the Tuesday review, I think, with Sean Rodgers, and that the manager was rightly praised for his subs at Leicester. Rightly praised. I think he got every sub absolutely spot on. If I'm Emre Can or James Milner, I am going to the manager afterwards.
Any chance?
Any hopes. And also, the fact that Wijnaldum gets the 90 is the other thing on this one. The fact that Wijnaldum, he gets the trip. And I'm sitting there going, he's not doing anything. He's not doing anything. For me, my first sub would have been Wijnaldum or Gomez, and that's not being harsh on Gomez, just that Newcastle were quite happy for us to pass to right back. Yeah. So I thought, why don't you just throw a different right back on who scares them a bit and go from there, put Milner there, or even do something mad, put Henderson there or put Mane there. Do something that makes them go, we can't just keep allowing this to happen.
I was saying put Milner there. I thought that was the sub as well.
But also, though, Wijnaldum just basically goes through, and it isn't as though the manager goes, hang on, this fella's not doing anything here. I'll change this bit around. And that's where you do get frustrated because he is just ghosting through the half. And as I say, not just us as fans, but if I am Chan or Milner, I'm thinking, well, what would it have took? How bad would he have had to be before the manager's saying, yeah, lads, I'll just change this around?
I mean, I'll be interested in to listen to that Tuesday review because I think there's a thing, another narrative, we keep using that phrase, another narrative is now, there's a little bit of a question mark about Klopp and subs, I think, and how he uses them and when he uses them. Because there seems to me to be a lot of conversations or a lot of times you're coming out of the match where you're going, didn't really get what he was doing with the subs there, and it didn't really...
Every sub made us worse.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a theme I've heard lots of times as well. And it's like, we used to praise, Rafa to the hilt about the way he used subs, and it became the thing, didn't it, in the 65 minutes and all that sort of thing. It's almost like Klopp seems the other way, almost reluctant to use them and reluctant to make a change and reluctant to try and influence it from his perspective.
There's that sort of trust thing that people say about him is that he trusts his squad and he trusts his starting lineup, and I don't know that it's as much that. I think where he's got a problem is that he is this emotional presence on the touchline, and he's an emotional presence in the game, and I just wonder how easy it is to just sort of see things slightly differently, see things a bit more coldly. And we were laughing really watching the game yesterday about Benitez and Klopp are opposites, I think, in many ways. The way that they set up, that more attacking football versus more cautious football. But Benitez's cold precision from the touchline was the thing in his subs. He always seemed to know the right one. They were always pre-planned, if you like, but it was very much part of who he is. I don't really think that Klopp quite buys into the subs thing.
You still both keep his fullbacks on as well, though.
But yeah, I know, and I heard you talking about Arbeloa as well on the pink, and but it is harder if you're caught up in it. Sometimes when I'm at the game, if there's a game I'm slightly less invested in, I think I'd change this now. I change that now. But then there's a game against Man U, and when I've completely lost the plot, and I don't give a toss who's on the pitch because I can't see anything because the red mist is down and everything. And I'm not saying I don't think he's quite as mad as me at the game, but I think it's got to be harder. It's got to be harder to be really precise in what you do. Be almost like an incision of something into the game. Take the emotion out of it. And see what the best sub is. And I think also as well, just to labour the point, is that he gets criticised for maybe being 10 minutes late with his subs, and I think there's something in that. And whether sometimes you're so invested in the game, you don't even know what time it is. I mean, I'm sure he does, broadly speaking, but sometimes 5 more minutes of thinking emotionally, and maybe the time to make the sub is just
that's what
passed.
his assistants are for as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was just about to say that actually Buvac and Crowitz, that's they're the ones that stay stone cold while he's emotional on the touchline.
I mean, just as a question there, Mel, what level of influence do you think they have on his decision making, sort of mid game, if you like? Do you think? I mean, I'm sure he listens to them.
Yeah, absolutely. They are.
I don't think anyone's really asked this question before.
They're
fairly invisible figures in a way. I know we know who they are, obviously, but To what extent are they part
They
of the
are
process?
very, very influential. Howitzer's job is to basically see everything, and Buvac is like the tactical disciple, and I think Klopp described him as like a football Bible. And even for match preparation, Klopp is in charge, but I think the quote he's once given me was, "I'm not a one-man show, and I've never have been. And there are things I'm good at, but to be better, I allow people who are better than me."
That all makes perfect sense. I just wonder whether sometimes, again, everyone's caught a little bit too close to the eye of a storm. And I just wondering out loud whether, sort of a temporary, additional, different voice in there might be beneficial for Liverpool to try and just see past all of the cliched problems and just, I said before about like a reset. I think like a mental reset, and whether you actually need someone who's a little bit more distant from the situation just to come in for a couple of weeks and say, "I think you might be doing this wrong. I don't know whether you've been thinking about this, that, and the other." But you are at the point now, whilst I absolutely re-stress, it's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. It is more of a blip for me. That you do need to start saying, well, it's all very well saying we've got this weakness and that weakness and that. We've got three sort of clear weaknesses: breaking teams down, not being able to defend, not taking chances. But I think it goes wider than that, and sometimes someone with a bit of distance can be quite useful in that sense.
Okay, Mike Nevin, Melissa Reddy, Gareth Roberts. Hope you really enjoyed this show. It's been an absolute belter. Thank you very much to all three of them for coming in. Loads and loads of good stuff on the website and on the player through your international week. If you are feeling like you've had enough of the football, I'd understand that, but we do more than just that as well. We hopefully entertain in a variety of different ways. And if you do subscribe, you can listen to all the old stuff that we've done as well, all the old interviews, everything that goes right the way back. There's even a page on the website that makes that very, very easy for you indeed. So you can see all of that there, anything that you'd want to. So if you are thinking about it, the Anfield Wrap, £5 a month, there's no better time to come and get stuck in with us and hopefully enjoy your football a little bit more if we can do that. And I think we can. It's 2 weeks now until Liverpool play Manchester United. It's going to be a hell of a 2 weeks. It's the perfect game, I think, the other side of all of this. We'll be back next week. We'll also be doing City Talk on Friday. It's the Anfield Wrap. See you soon.